Whew. Got me in the chin. Hey everybody. I didn't plan on this being the first video that I post, but I need to change the brake pads on our 2019 Subaru Ascent. And I looked on YouTube and some of the forums and couldn't find a whole lot of information or videos on how to do it. Brake pads are generally pretty easy. The whole brake system is really pretty straightforward. But I like to see if there's any tips or tricks or gotchas before I dive into something the first time. And I've never done anything with the brakes on this car. So I figured I'll make my own. So here we are. So we just got our Subaru back from the dealership. It had some clunking and some binding sensationally going around turns. We brought it into the dealer to get checked. Turns out they needed to change out the struts and the transmission. It got a whole new transmission. And while they were working on it, they called and told me that it needs new pads. And I said, yeah, all right, how much is it gonna run? The guy tells me about $900. I said, wow, okay. Does it need rotors and calipers too? He's like, nope, just the pads. They run about $200 a set, and then installation and labor is gonna run, it was 900 and change, whatever it was. I said, don't do the brakes. I'll figure them out myself. So, little backstory, these brakes, I've never really been impressed with. They work well, but ever since the car was new, we bought this new in 2019, when you get on the brakes aggressively, you get wah, 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 as you're stopping. Since day one, it's always been like that. So when we first got the car, I looked into aftermarket brakes, aftermarket rotors, and there was nothing. It was a brand new car. So I got this news from the dealership that was going to cost that much money. I'm like, no way. So I went to source some OEM Subaru brakes, and they were about $200, $180, $200 a set. The guy wasn't lying. So I went out to Powerstop. I've used Powerstop stuff in the past, and I like it. And finally, they had the different grades of brakes. They've got some rotors. I didn't get the rotors. I got just the pads, and we're going to change those, and we're going to see how she goes. If that doesn't stop that vibration, wah, 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 wah sound, then at some point in the future, I'll change the rotors. But for right now, for the purpose of today, we're just going to change the pads. So let's get this girl in the air and get to work. I'm going to start with the rears because that's where I'm at right now. I should be using a jack stem to this. I'm not under the car. If it falls, it's going to fall half an inch onto the ramp. I'm not concerned. I'm not going to be underneath. Lug nuts, 19 millimeter. So go ahead and zip those off. Oh, hello. That's a nice surprise. Juicier Bomb, double New England IPA. From Sloop Brewing in Hopewell Junction. And Hampton, New Hampshire. So, a good start. Oh yeah, dude. Now the tech had said that the brake pads were almost metal on metal. And, I mean, they're worn, but there's still a bit of life left on these. I'm not concerned about that, but, I mean, we'll change it anyway. It is low. And some springs. I got the Z23 kit from Powerstop, which, if I remember right, is their upper. They have Daily Driver, which is OEM replacement. They have Daily Driver, I don't remember what they call it. It's like Daily Driver Plus. It's their upgraded Daily Driver. It's not really a sports kinda, but it's a little better than OEM, allegedly. I didn't need to go too crazy with this. It's my wife's car. She drives the kids to and from school, whatever they got going on. I don't need performance pads, but if I'm gonna spend the money, I would like to get some a little better. So we got these Z23s. Z23 1808 is the rear brakes, the rear pads for the 2019 of these Subaru Ascent. And they came with these springs. These little guys. And those little guys, they go right there. Right, there's like a U-shaped notch. It looks like that's where they fit. So, this spring has to come off. I guess I lied when I said I'm not going underneath the car. Just want to see what's on the other side. Nothing really. These plugs. I wonder if I can get away. How much do I really have to take off to take the pads? Let me figure that out. Like I said, it is my first time doing this, so we're just gonna go and try some things. And the first thing I'm gonna try is taking out this spring. And there's just, it looks like there's just two detents here that it's not really a hole, it's just a little detent that spring fits into. Or I could be wrong, it could be a hole. But it just looks like a little divot. So it shouldn't be hard to muscle out of there. Whew. Got me in the chin. No blood, so that's all right. And that went in like that. Oh, well, yeah, there are holes. Okay, well. All right, so you're off. Now I would imagine I have to take some bolts off to at least swing this out of the way. So I discovered something. It looks like these pop off, and inside, I'll show you this one, is an Allen socket. I believe the size is 7mm because I have a 6mm that's too small, and an 8mm that's too big, and a 1/4 that's too small, and a 5/32 that's too big. I don't have a 7mm Allen key, so of course that's the one that is. So I went and I used the next best thing, which is a T47 Torx bit. So I got the bottom out. Now I'm just going to work on the top. Now these aren't torqued very high, so I'll have to look up what the torque setting is on these. But they're not torqued very much at all, so I'm not worried about the Torx bit gouging up the hex. It seems to fit pretty good. All right, so that's loose. That's loose. Everything on the back seems to be attached to the brake pad bracket, so I think it should all just come off or just lift out. Okay. All right. Let me come on the other side where I can see. So much for not going underneath the car, huh? Okay. Wait, you're coming. There we go. Okay. Okay, well the inner pad had plenty of life left. The outer pad had a little less, but still pretty decent. So let's see what we've got in the rear brake package. We've got an outer, and you can see the difference in pad depth, pad size. Yeah, it's definitely considerably more worn than it initially looks like. And we've got, oh good, and an inside caliper with the spring already attached. So I don't know why they have these. I don't know. I didn't see any other. Maybe this clip. So okay. So you got to pay attention to what side you take out, because there's this metal clip. And I took it, and I guess the metal clip looks like it goes to the rear of the car. So this is the wrong side. This is the other side. This is the side that I need. Okay. And as far as the outside pads, I don't see a difference. They both look identical to me. Okay. I'm going to go get a C-clamp so I can push in the rest of this caliper. And then we'll start putting the pads back in. So there's a clip on the back, that guy there, that if you unhook them, it makes this thing a lot easier to maneuver around. You kind of need a pick or a tiny screwdriver to get in there to unclip it. But now that it's out, I might have a little more luck getting this piston pushed back. My big C-clamp somehow went missing, so I'm actually using a torsion bar clamp to try and push this piston back. So it took me a very, very long time to figure this out. Apparently, Subaru brake caliper pistons don't just get pushed in, they have to get spun. And I had never seen that before. That might be common on other makes, but I'm used to, you know, Ford, Chevy, GMC, working on that stuff, and I've never had to spin pistons in before. So you'll see on the piston, there's those two indentations. So what I had to do is spin it clockwise, and I didn't have I guess they make tools for this, but I used some snap ring pliers. And I put them right in the grooves, just like that, and spun it. I would spin it a couple times, and then I would push it in with the clamp, and it would go in, bit by bit. So I've got to the point now where it'll fit over the new pads. The only thing I have to do is clean up the face of this a little bit, because I did make some high spots using those pliers. So I'll just hit it with a file and knock that down a little bit. So now I'm ready to put the caliper bracket, the brake pad bracket back onto the pads. What I'm going to do is take some brake lube, and I'm going to put some on the piston. I'll put a little bit on this face of the bracket, and hopefully that will minimize any noise from the pads. Alright, just put a little bit more. Alright. That looks pretty good. Alright. Now we'll just slip this right over. Perfect. Great. Okay. We'll take our T47 Torx bit. That's doubling as a 7mm, I believe. Don't hold me to that, because I don't know. Allen key. So we get you. Alright, you're threading in nicely. You are also threading in not nice. There you go. Yeah, there you go. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a little bit of brake lube on the threads of these bolts. So if I have to take them off again, it might be a little easier. I mean, it wasn't hard to begin with, but you know, I'd like them to be easy next time. Seems good enough. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing at the top. I'm gonna loosen it up, put a little grease on there, a little lubricant. Try and keep the threads from corroding to the bracket. Like that. Wonderful. Okay. All right, that's nice and tight. Probably just as tight as it was when I took it off. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to snug up this bleeder valve, because one of the things I did try when I was trying to push that caliper back in, which, like I said, you can't do, was loosen the bleeder valve and push it in that way, which was useless, and now we know why. But that's nice and snug now. Plugging this electrical connector back in. Click. And that is everything. Nope, hold on. I forgot the spring. This guy goes right like that, down, and like that. Let me try and do this without poking my eye out. Alright, how can I do this? Now that I know what I'm doing, this is probably going to be the most difficult part of doing the other side. Jesus. Alright, I'll take my time here. I have an idea. What if I do this? Okay, secure you in there like that. All right. I think that's it. This side, ladies and gentlemen, is finished up. So, rundown of the back brakes. You have to take the spring off. You got to undo these two 7mm hex nuts, or use a T47 Torx bit if you're careful. If they don't want to go, don't force them. I don't know what's going to happen if you put too much pressure with a Torx bit inside a hex bolt. I don't know. You're going to take this off. The pads are going to come right out. No problem. To push the caliper piston back into the caliper, you can't just press it like you would on any other car that I've worked on, at least. You'll either need the retraction tool, or I happen to use snap ring pliers because that's just what I had handy. Also, regular needle nose could work just as well. Be careful not to mar up the piston, because you will need to file that down flat so it doesn't, so it pushes evenly against the backs of the pads. Once you have the piston pushed in, like I said, you do it clockwise. This is my experience. I don't know if it's the right way to do it. Clockwise with your pliers or retraction tool, clamp it in. Squeeze the clamp. It'll push that piston in. Lube up the face of the piston, and right around here on the inside of the pad bracket, and reinsert. Tighten these up. Put your spring back in. Reclip your electronic parking brake clip connector. If you did that, it should all go back together. I don't know what the test ride is going to be like, obviously, because I haven't test rode it yet. But we're going to do the other side. Shouldn't take me long now that I actually know what I'm doing, and I'm not worried about filming and moving the camera around. Then we're going to move to the front, and I'll film that with you guys, and we'll. That should be easier because I don't think there is a parking brake on the front. Let's see. And it's very dark. No. It's just a piston. So this should be able to just get squeezed back in. But we'll see. All right, guys. So I just replaced the passenger side brake calipers. And it took me about 11 minutes. That includes taking the wheel off. That time does not include putting the wheel on. So in reality, to change these pads, once you get the hang of it, once you actually know what you're doing, you can do it in about 10 minutes. The first side probably took me, what time is it? It's 11:34. So that side probably total took me about an hour just trying to get my bearings. The roughest part was figuring out how to get that piston back in. But once I figured it out, this side, I maybe twisted maybe half a dozen times. No, maybe a dozen times, 12, 15 times. Push that caliper back in, all the way in. I did in increments, you know, I'd twist, 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 twist. Clamp it, see how far it got. Test fit it. Twist, 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 twist. Clamp it some more. Kept doing that until it finally fit over the brake pads. I don't know if the fronts are the twist kind, but we're gonna find out. So I already did the passenger side, and I figure that's probably best because now that I actually know what I'm doing, I can better show you what you guys need to do instead of you watching me make all the mistakes and trying to correct and trying to explain. So I've already gotten the wheel off, obviously, and the first thing that we need to do is take off this clip, which should come in your kit. You get another one, you get two of these. They go on like this. So to get these off, the easiest way that I found is to clamp it. You compress it, it pulls that out, and then with some pliers, just, oh, it's out. And you get that out, and it's that easy. Now, you have the same kind of Allen socket bolts on the back side of this, but instead of being 7mm, they are 11mm, and I know that because my 10mm is too small and the 12mm is too big. So it's 11mm. Or you can use, you guessed it, Torx bit T55 happens to fit perfectly. And of course I have one of those. So we're going to use that. And you just crack open these nuts on bolts on the back. There, all right. So we'll just loosen these up the last little bit by hand. Yeah, that's the bottom. Ooh, too far. There we go. And the top. And that's good for that. Okay. Now the caliper, Now, the brake pad bracket will just slide out. Takes a little bit of jiggling back and forth. I might not have that bolt out all the way. That might be jamming me up. Oh, there we go. Now it's out. There we go. So the outer pad comes right out. The inner pad is actually held into the pistons by clips. As you can see right here, these actually go into the cavities in the pistons. The outer pads are also directional. One side has a clip. You'll just have to match it up with whatever pad you're taking off. This one's got the clip. And just for reference, the front pads were definitely needing to be replaced. You can see the old pad on the bottom, how much of a difference that is. The guy was right. They needed to be done. $900 is a little steep, so I'm glad we're doing it this way. Now you'll just kind of muscle these out. And it's filled with I shouldn't say filled. Very rusty inside these. If you guys could see that little bit of rust coming out. The right thing to do would be to brush the inside of this stuff out a little bit. And you know what? I actually think I'm gonna. I didn't do it on the other side, but I think I'm going to do it on this side. So I'm going to take this battery terminal cleaner and just kind of swish it around the inside. Try to get out a little bit of this rust. It didn't do much. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Now we have to compress these. We have to compress these pistons in, and for that, I'm going to use a piece of angle iron that I've got laying around, and the clamp. Now these are very tough. So you might lose sight of me for a minute while I try and muscle this thing as best that I can. But I know it's compressing because I can see the bar moving. You know, it'd be a lot easier with a real C-clamp, but like I said before, mine walked away. My stuff tends to do that. But it's probably just me misplacing it. Alright, so I've got these pretty well compressed, I think. So what I'm going to do is put some lube on the pistons. And I'm going to put some lube on the inside of the bracket where it's going to contact the brake pad. Do that on all the sides. Inner brake pad will just pop right in. Might need a little bit of effort to get the sweet spot. That's too high. There we go. That's in. Now while I'm right here, what I'm going to do, you know what, first, let's get the outside brake pad on. Boom, that's it. Now I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the threads of the bolts. I don't know if you're supposed to, if it's good or bad, but I like it. I started doing it on my pickup, my '05 Silverado, because it seemed like every year and a half or so, I was replacing front hubs because it's got the lift and the 35-inch tires on it, and it was eating up hubs. And I was always taking the brake calipers off, so I started greasing them. So every year and a half, 2 years, when I have to replace a hub, they're easy to take off. That's where that habit came from. Push those back out so I can actually get this thing on. Cool. Now this little guy should just slide right on if I did it right. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Oh, nice. Okay. I'm gonna hop underneath. Put these bolts on. And that's that. The only thing we got left to do is to put this clip on, and it's pretty easy. I had a screwdriver here. There we go. And just give that a little push in, and that's it. That's all she wrote, man. That's it. We're gonna get the tire back on. This stuff out of the way. Got the plastic caps. Don't forget to put those back over the Allen bolts. The kit came with new caps. I didn't think it was necessary to change them because the old ones were just fine. And spray pads. There goes the wheel. Now you're going to want to torque these lug nuts down to 89 foot-pounds, and that's the same for all models of the Ascent, all trim levels. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Brakes are done. Rear driver was a pain in the neck. Took a lot of learning, and it was a big learning curve to do that one. Wasn't quite sure what I was getting myself into. But we got through it. We learned something. Subaru brakes, you have to twist and then compress. I hope that was the right way to do it because I am driving this home and it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Passenger rear was a breeze. Took me about 10 minutes. Front right, also learned a thing or two about it. Took me probably 20, I would say. And then you were along for the ride for front left. And you see, it's really easy if you have the tools. Even if you don't have the proper tools, you can make it work. Brakes aren't difficult. I don't know why Subaru does what they do with the parking brake. Maybe all electric parking brakes are like that. I don't know. I've never messed with the electric parking brake before. This is actually the third vehicle I've had with electric parking brake. Well, I haven't messed with the other two. Those releases, and we gave them back. We own this guy. So, hope you learned something. Hope this helps you guys out. Now I know what to do in the future. Next time a dealer wants to charge me $900 for a brake pad job, tell me to go pound sand. Get lost. Get out of here. I'll do it myself. I'll link the brake pads that I used, I think all in, I was under $100. I think literally it was like $99.98 for the fronts and the rears, and I got those from Rock Auto, but you can get them from Amazon. The Z23 was the model, and the part number I don't remember off the top of my head, but you go to Powerstop, punch in Ascent, your year, and it'll spit out the results for you. Thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and good luck with your brake shop project.